You had a question? I'll just come to you. I think at the back, and then I'll come to you.
So, like, going by your experience, like you have experience in the government sector and also in the private sector.
Yeah.
So, what are the areas in which we as individuals can fit in and actually make a difference? Because we are passionate about doing it, but the point is, we do not have any avenues for doing it. So
Sure.
there are a number of constructive activities also going on in the country.
Yes.
Is there any way we can contribute to those activities?
Yes, you can. I mean, there are numerous activities going on. Numerous, literally numerous. So, but there is one thing which I would advise you to do. Okay, two things actually. So, first thing you can contribute. I think just you can simply contribute by doing whatever you are doing to the best of your ability. Really, I mean, that's enough of nation building. If you do what you are supposed to do, regardless of whether it's your job, your company, do it to the best of your ability with integrity. That's important. Okay, and that's trust is as good a start as it is to contributing to the society. Every individual, if he or she follows the law and does whatever he or she is supposed to be doing to the best of their abilities, is already contributing a lot to the society. As I said, what I mean by integrity is pay your taxes, file your things in wherever it is on time, etc., etc. On top of that, then you say, no, I want to do something else, little bit more. So, one, I'm making a very controversial statement here. Avoid the NGO route. Okay? I don't mean to say, stop donating to charity. But I'm saying avoid the temptation of going the NGO route and saying, I'm going to help and join this NGO. For the simple reason, almost all the challenges and problems that we have today as a country, no amount of NGOs can solve those problems. I mean, look at these laws, which NGO can solve this problem? This is a problem of system that needs systemic reform, that needs a rethink in the entire structure of government and administration, the way policies are made, the way they're handled. So, avoid the NGO route, instead pick up an overtly political activity. Now, before picking up an overtly political activity, the first thing is you need to have your fundamentals very, very clear. What are you fighting for? Are you fighting for a RTI or are you fighting for more, openness in the government? Have information open, have more technology. Simple example: if on red at traffic lights, instead of a police guy, you have a camera, you reduce corruption dramatically because the camera can't be bribed. How will you bribe the camera? Camera simply records. If you jump it, then you get a notice at your home. That's it. That's what happens in abroad.
That's what happened.
Yeah. So camera records, you jump, there is no one to bribe. You can't, even if you want to, you can't bribe. But the great part also is, by the way, the other advantage of that is, these kind of thinking, it doesn't work. So in London, if I even accidentally violate a law, I am not stressed out, and I certainly can't bribe and don't want to bribe. But I know a notice will come, which is fine. I pay the fine. That's why I made a mistake. I violated the law. I paid the fine. Move on with it. Okay, so that kind of thing. So read, and I'll just give recommend one book, which is by one of my colleagues, called Breaking Free of Nehru. Please, it's available for free on the net. All of you have net connection. Download it. Buy it if you can, but you don't have to buy it. The entire thing is downloaded. Please read it. That book will open your eyes to ideas about governance and politics. Okay. One more question, quick, fast. I'll come to you in a second. Yeah.
Pertaining to this only. So, my question was more specific. We have the next 2 years where we do not have much job responsibility.
Oh, okay, fine. Listen. Go to this side. My email address is on this side. Write to me. I have work for you. Seriously, you have time? 2 hours a week?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Write to me. Seriously, I mean it. Please do write to me. Good. Done. You had a question and someone else had a question. You had a question. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things I saw in TED Talks, that there is one guy who started a call center.
Yes.
To tackle the issue of low-level corruptions.
Yeah.
They get the queries from victims.
Yeah.
And they and the details of the officer.
Yeah. iPaidAbribe.com. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
You go and report there. iPaidAbribe.com. Okay. So next time you of course try the unknown OP. If that doesn't work, you say, okay, I paid a bribe. I mean, yeah, you paid a bribe. I know, it's like as someone said, you are a victim in many cases. That's also another stupid thing. The bribe giver is treated at par with the bribe taker, which is, I agree with you, is a bit silly. But yeah, I paid a bribe is similar thing. These things are okay, but I want you guys, look, listen, you guys are not some school kids, okay? You are not 10, 12-year-olds. You have a mind and you have the ability to think, and you have proven it. So I'm not even, trying to flatter you. I know you are smart. Think about these things. Think about the causes. Why is this happening? What are the system? The system itself has incentives built in that produce this kind of behavior. There is almost an incentive to be corrupt. How you pay the police such pittance that there is an incentive for him to make money. and the chances of conviction are close to zero. If I tell you that you can take 100 rupees which will be kept on that chair every day, and by the way, there is almost 99.99% chance that you will not be caught, and there will always be 100 rupees there, won't you come and pick it? It's human nature, right? You take the risk, you calculate the odds are so low that you say, oh fine, and by the way, you are starving. Oh, then of course you will come and pick it, right? So that's what happens. So think about those issues. I'll just update, I know,
I've heard that, correct me if I'm wrong, the laws for Mumbai are different from those with the other cities or other towns for the starting up a new business. So if we have say business coming up in Ahmedabad or another Surat or something, so the time required or the efforts put in there are
could be different, yes.
Yeah,
some of the laws, a lot of laws. So in India there are 3 lists of laws: state laws, central union laws, and the concurrent list. So depending on where you are right. It might be easier or it might be more difficult.
So is it done in a way to not encourage many industries in Mumbai, as in to decentralize Mumbai?
You can do it, but I don't think anyone is thinking that hard. That might be a inadvertent positive effect that people are not coming to. I don't think they thought about it. Hey, let's make another law. So, oops, no one is coming here. Okay, that's good. It's getting less crowded. Good for all. So I don't think anyone thought about it. But yeah, possible. If they did, I think that would be wonderful. Let me answer that one.
I wanted to add to what he had mentioned.
Yes.
Is there any scope for innovation?
Mm-hmm.
For outsiders in governance? So I'm talking about some kind of entrepreneurship from outsiders in governance, be it urban planning, be it e-governance systems, so on and so forth.
My view. This is my view, and your question has prompted me to think. So I'm giving you an answer which is kind of top of my mind, but I'll think about it because it's thought-provoking. But the simple answer is there are so many easy ways to already fix what is wrong. Easy ways, like e-governance has been around for decades. It's not new.
But there's a resistance. I mean,
exactly. The resistance does not need innovation. To break the resistance, you don't need innovation. Unless you're talking of innovation means changing the people. If that is innovation, yes, that's what it needs. It needs a change of leadership. That's all. No other innovation is required. Trust me. We know what is to be done. Look, all Saturday Indians are not stupid. Okay, and they are not wired to be corrupt either. So we are not stupid, we are not wired to be corrupt. We know what it takes to fix these issues. Now there needs to be political will. Now unless you mean by innovation, how we change those people, that's innovation, that's different. But I will think about it, but I don't think it needs. My instinctive answer is no, there are many simple ways, we know what needs to be done. Innovation is when you don't know or when you try to do something radically different. I don't think we need to do anything radically different. We have examples of societies which are not so corrupt. Let's learn from them. What do? They don't do something dramatically different. Okay, so that's my short answer. Yeah.
In terms of, as you said, systemic reform is what is required.
Yeah.
But for that, it has to come from the top.
Yes.
And it has to change from the top.
Yes.
Often these solutions are very politically unpopular.
Yes.
So moving towards free markets is a very unpopular idea for politicians.
Indeed.
So for
and
us,
even most people.
Yeah. And there's a lot of misinformation where generally people will just brand you as a capitalist and say, you are one of those evil people ruining our lives.
You are God and get God.
Yeah. So it's a very difficult situation to be in, and there's really no way out of it. So what are you doing?
What am I doing? That's good. There is a way out, which I think, and so that brings you to what I'm doing. So people ask, what's this political activism? Are you just trying to, hide the money that you have made and try and spend it little bit, so no one knows? Or I made a lot of money while in the foreign service. It got too hot, so I left. It wasn't that. Okay, I'll tell you about this political activism. It's actually quite hard, and just one of the reasons I do this workshop is to get some money. But what I actually do in this political activism? So it's mainly two things. One is precisely what you say is, for want of better word, I call it generating political consciousness, or increasing political awareness. Okay, excellent example of this capitalism. The whole idea about capitalists are evil, and you saw it even in this recent movement. Oh, all this corruption is because of this big bad MNCs. Oh, by the way, my son is working, but don't ask me why. No, he doesn't listen to me. My daughter is also employed in the bank, but she doesn't listen to me either. So, but these guys are bad. They're evil. Okay, so that's one. So to change that mindset, now it's very hard. You try and go to a villager and say, it's good to make money, and then I will look at you as they came from Marx, or he'll say you are one evil person, and either so either of the two. Either you are a complete idiot, or that you are really evil, and so you don't know. You should be, stay as far away from you as possible. So to change that, and to change that in a compelling narrative that grabs people's attention and convinces them. Because you can't force this down, you can't take, I wish I had a hammer and I could go in each person's when I say capitalism is good, when capitalism is good, and then capitalism is good, it doesn't work that way, impossible, right? We don't live in Soviet Union, do we? And even in the Soviet Union it doesn't work. Even then it doesn't work. Some people might say we actually live in some kind of a Soviet Union. Anyway, the only way is to talk to people, convince them using simple narratives why it is a good idea. I'm recommending a post on my blog, a very recent post by a colleague who is working with me in this area of political activism. He's actually an entrepreneur, like so many of you. He's from IIT Delhi and he's a co-founder of a very successful startup in Delhi called Critical. But anyway, the post is it's very provocatively titled "Profit is Good." Sorry, profit is charity. It says profit is charity. Do read that post. And that's one great example of, in simple narrative, how can you convince people that making profit is actually a good thing. It enhances shareholder value. It gives people who are investors an opportunity to earn money. And it's good. And by the way, a good company will never selectively pick up anyone. Anyone can buy a share of a good company. So it actually is spreading wealth. So those guys, so we have to do that. So I spend a lot of time just, for want of a better word, educating people about politics. Fundamental politics, that socialism is actually a very bad idea. Capitalism is actually not as bad as people think it is. Now there can be crony capitalism, which could be bad, which is like you and me together decide to take over this industry. That's different. But it's as a concept, it's not bad. So that's the only way. There is no shortcut. Because unless that happens, people are not going to. They will still elect those. They will elect people who promise this MNREGA, and then you have to come up with another longer acronym because everyone is, oh yeah, that's like NREGA. No, this is not NREGA. This is some RG something something. Okay, so it's even better. Okay, yeah.